Mondo mania grips the Paris Olympics after smashing his own world record. Selina Sykes tells us just how high Swedish pole vaulter Armand Duplantis can go. She joins us live from the Stade de France. Careful with those rings, how the Olympics jealously guards rights to its ubiquitous logo. It's the 1980s craze that never went away. We tell you what pins at these Olympics are worth. Well, the answer is gold. Welcome to Destination Paris. I'm François Picard alongside Daily Beast contributing editor Craig Capitas. How are you, sir?
Upset and extremely sad to report that I'm here tonight to tell you about a 124-year-old scandal that the French government has buried as it heaps opprobrium on the government and on the name of François Picard. It's no pleasure that for me to tell you that your great uncle Alfred Picard of the Strasbourg Picards, the ancestral home of your family, came within a whisker of preventing the Olympic Games from ever taking place in Paris after 1900. Your uncle Alfred Francois was the commissioner of the 1900 Universal Exhibition, and he told IOC founder, fellow Frenchman Pierre de Coubertin that Paris 1900 would be the exhibition games and not the Olympic Games. This caused a huge scandal and a fist fight between Coubertin and your great uncle Alfred. But your uncle Alfred won out. The games lasted 6 months because that's how long the exhibition lasted. And he also demanded, and because he had the bureaucratic clout, it took place that cannon shooting and fishing in the Seine would be part of the Olympic athletic program. And it was only because Uncle Alfred had passed away before the 24 games that we are right now not having cannons being fired or fishing taking place in the Seine for your favorite fish, the goujon.
Well, one landmark from 1900 exhibition is the Grand Palais, where the fencing competition was held. Craig Capitas, up to you to parse the fake news in that report. How high can he go? Armand Duplantis winning over more than Swedes with his world record vault on a Monday evening. Charlotte Hughes has that story.
He has made pole vaulting history once again. After failing on his first two attempts, Sweden's Armand Duplantis cleared 6.25 metres, breaking his own world record after having already retained his Olympic gold medal with a vault of 6 metres. Swedish fans at the Stade de France celebrated the win.
He is a legend already, but he will be a legend for a long time.
I never seen something like that, and it's a dream coming true.
Great, fantastic, wonderful. It's I get the goosebumps.
It marks the 9th time that Duplantis, popularly known as Mondo, has broken the world record.
He needed to challenge himself and sort of win over himself, and that was just magic, wasn't it? I mean, the best ending there could ever be.
Duplantis has an impressive track record. He came out on top at the Outdoor World Championships in 2022 and 2023 and has also secured 3 European Championship titles. The 24-year-old, who was born in Louisiana, is the son of American former pole vaulter Greg Duplantis, who has also coached him, and Swedish former heptathlete Selina Duplantis. He's the first man to clinch consecutive Olympic pole vault golds since the USA's Bob Richards, who topped the podium in 1952 and 1956.
Selina Sykes joins us now from the National Stadium. Selina, you were there to witness history Monday.
Yeah, Francois, it was an absolutely remarkable moment, a sensational moment. The whole of the Stade de France was aghast as he managed to do it on his third and final attempt, breaking the world record on the biggest of stages. Might I add, he also got a new Olympic record, although that was completely out of the question as soon as he got that world record, 6.25 metres. Absolutely sensational. He ran straight over to his family, friends. There's very few athletes. There are athletes that transcend their nationality and get fans from across the world. He's definitely one of these athletes. The whole stadium, and also journalists who obviously are supposed to be more reserved usually in their celebrations. In the press stand, everybody was up on their feet screaming. It was just an absolutely incredible moment. They played the stadium, played ABBA's Dancing Queen. Everyone was dancing and jumping around. And even when I was leaving the stadium to come out here and do some more lives, Francois, people were still in the stadium waiting for him just to maybe come over. It was absolutely remarkable thing to witness.
Now, our own James Vizina has compiled for us the list of world records in the pole vault. And look, before that it was Renaud Lavillenie in 2014. And now look, since 2020, Duplantis. How high can he go?
I mean, Francois, we saw it last night. He's completely in a league of his own. None of his competitors even managed to get above the 6-meter marker. That's when he got the gold medal in his pocket and decided to go for it. Obviously, he's doing this thing, lifting it by a centimetre each time, which is great showmanship, really, isn't it? Because everybody gets to see a world record broken, and it really looks like he can keep going higher and higher. He's just so much more capable than the other athletes. He is completely in a world, in a league of his own. I wouldn't put it past him breaking a few more world records. He's broken 9 world records so far, 8 of them, of course, being his own.
Yeah, it reminds us of the days of Ukrainian pole vaulter Sergei Bubka. Selina, you're going into these Olympics athletics competition with fresh eyes. Your first time in the stadium. You know, everybody talks about the 100-meter dash, about the relays. Your thoughts when you watch a competition like this one and you see the bar go higher?
It's really something very exciting, Francois. I think obviously there's so much talk and attention over the running in particular at Olympics and other athletics events. But there's something really remarkable when it comes to the crowd, all the athletes, getting them involved, encouraging them to clap as the build-up for their jump, which is a really, really nice atmosphere. It's funny just to see how engaged and invested fans are for these kind of sports, because they go on much longer, of course, than running events. You know, Duplantis, the final last night was the first event that started off, and it finished the evening last night at the Stade de France. But people are there rearing them on. And also something that I noted is that even among the competitors, obviously Duplantis is in a world of his own, but what was a really nice thing to see is that all his fellow competitors were clapping and rearing him on to break that world record, and everyone was just ecstatic when he managed to do it. It's very much a sense of camaraderie in the sport and among the fans as well. And obviously Duplantis has really taken the sports to new heights now, getting so much attention on the sport. He is just an absolute superstar at just 24 years old.
And after new heights, it'll be new lengths later with the long jump. Selina Sykes following it for us from the Stade de France. Many thanks for that live update. Better currency than gold if you're attending the games are pins. They were a craze in the 1980s and have remained so ever since, wherever Olympics are held. Destination Paris producer Marion Laurie caught the pins bug. She's also been working as a volunteer. One of her peeps at the Olympic Village managed to score the North Korea Olympic pin. Our own Lauren Bain tracked down our supplier.
Fans are streaming in to go watch the volleyball, and we're going to turn our focus to another competition, the art of Olympic pin trading. And so we're joined by Marion Laurie, who is a pin collector herself. Yes. So tell us about some of your pins.
Well, you know, I've started getting my collection back at the village. So I'll give you just an example of a few I have. I have the Polish one. I have the French one, pretty basic, but it was given to me by one of the handball players, so it's a pretty cool story. You have Costa Rica, Hungary, Brazil, and Argentina. It's for me, Argentina. It was my first pin, you know, that got me introduced to the pin collection.
Okay, and when did pins trading start, and when did it really take off?
Well, it basically started back in the modern era of the Olympic Games in Athens in 1896. And then it started being a big trend in the 80s when people started exchanging them. And now it's a huge trend. Maybe like the biggest athletes trade their pins. Even Simone Biles have her own made pins, and it's quite the hot pin to get.
And what are some other coveted pins this games that people want?
I think the most coveted this year is the Snoop Dogg pins that it was given to Coco Gauff, the US tennis player, and I think it got everyone talking. I think everyone wants to have it.
Yeah, and so what is your favorite story behind a pin that you have?
I think one of my favorite pins, it has to be Costa Rica. Look at this cute little guy. It's a sloth. Costa Rica chose to represent the Olympic pin with a sloth. I think it's a surprise.
Yeah, really fitting for a very ambitious and driven athlete. And that, Francois, is the news on this lazy Tuesday in Paris.
Thanks, Lauren Bain. Craig Capitas, the 1980s are over. What is it with the pins?
It's currency. It's like Bitcoin. It's probably, worth more money than Bitcoin. There's two pins that I brought along to show, which are still very, very much desirable. The one, the cockerel with the Olympic rings, is the French Olympic Committee, the French team from the late 1980s. That's a keeper, a very important one. Now, the other one is really interesting in relationship to Snoop Dogg's pin, where you see him blowing smoke in the shape of Olympic rings. This pin is from 1996 Atlanta, from a place called the Varsity, which was a mom and pop soda fountain, American graffiti type place that's been in Atlanta for years. So they
serve burgers and
burgers, and their most famous, world famous product was onion rings. So what they did is they did a pin, as you can see from the shot. If you can bring it back up, they did a pin with onion rings in it, and the IOC marketing department went ballistic. They thought, because they weren't NBC, they didn't have the rights to the rings, that the Varsity's onion rings were in violation of Olympic marketing agreements. They were using the rings illegally, and a whole bunch of us journalists jumped into the fray and supported the Varsity, saying this was the most ridiculous thing we ever heard. And the Varsity pins, some were saved, and the IOC said, okay, Varsity, you can use your onion ring pin.
Let's see if we can get another close-up of the Varsity onion ring pin, because here's the question. It's just a pin with onion rings on it. Why would the Olympics be so heavy-handed?
Anything with rings on it, branded with rings, gets the IOC upset because of these multi-billion-dollar marketing agreements that only give those who have spent the money the right to use the Olympic rings, which is their logo. And they're very sensitive about this.
When I see, just to be clear here, when I go to my local boulangerie and they've got their display in the window and they've put up the Olympic rings, could they be liable for a lawsuit?
They're not supposed to be doing that, Francois. Olympic croissants. There were guys from Dumago the other day, waiters. They had put up their trays like the Olympic rings. And there was some talk at the IOC whether that was legitimate, because you could see a Dumago in the background.
What's this about? This jealously guarding the logo of the Olympics?
It's about money. The Olympic rings, by all accounts, is the most valuable logo in the world. It's the most recognized logo in the world, more so than the logo of Coca-Cola, believe it or not. So they protect anything that comes in rings. They've become less sensitive over the years since the Varsity incident.
And how do they do it in the age of social media?
They're having problems with that. They can't go after anyone, but what everyone. But what they're very concerned about is if for example, if France 24, if we had done an Olympic pin and we had put the rings on it because we are not a rights holder, they would have come in and told us to destroy those rings or we'd be fined because we're in violation of IOC.
But the North Koreans have the right to.
That is correct, because the North Korean Olympic Committee has the right to use the rings, as with the French Olympic Committee, the cockerel with the rings.
And just one final question. Remind us, it was the Baron Pierre de Coubertin, the founder of the modern games, who himself conceived this logo?
God, you've caught me on that. There was some talk that it might have been your Uncle Picard who actually did it, but I don't know. We're going to be doing the reporting on that later this week, as I understand.
Yeah, that's right.
That's his right.
Okay. There you see the original drawing that is attributed to Pierre de Coubertin. Parisians, and we're with Leo McGuinn, he knows what I'm about to talk about, experiencing seller's remorse. Those who rented out their apartments and left town now say they regret missing out on the party. James Andre has that story.
Well, here in the French press, we read everything, that the Olympics would be a catastrophe, that it would be impossible to move, and that there would be too many people. Parisians have fled. Well, I've been speaking to people here on the Champs-Élysées, and they're rather happy with their Olympic Games.
It's been a fantastic atmosphere to come into. Everyone's really friendly. There's lots of volunteers around who are giving up their time to help tourists and help people like us who haven't got a clue where we're going.
I'm loving it. I mean, it's a bucket list dream for me to come to the Olympics. Unfortunately, I was unable to go when it was on our own doorstep in London in 2012, so I was really, really pleased when I could get tickets and come.
It's great. I'm living it like a party. It's really out of the ordinary. It's a chance to be here.
The atmosphere isn't stressed at all. On the contrary, above all, you feel an immense joy around this exchange of cultures.
There aren't many Parisians here, so it's nice. No, in fact, everyone's in the Olympic spirit, in the spirit of the Games, in the spirit of celebration. So I think people are really enjoying it.
The opening ceremony with all the shows, the fact that people are really enjoying being here and that the French athletes are bringing back a lot of medals too. I think life has changed.
Well, with sports arenas such as the Place de la Concorde, but also the Champs-Élysées, the Eiffel Tower, the Versailles Castle, the few Americans I've come across here are rather worried that it'll be difficult to better this in 4 years' time.
Oh, I think it'll be tough, but I think we're up for the challenge.
Something that surprised us is that there's no alcohol for sale in the venues. LA will do that very differently, I think. What is LA? I mean, LA has the sun. I mean, I don't know. LA has a couple of football stadiums, and you guys have the perfect venues.
These days, the French press is running article upon article about these Parisians that fled the capital and now feel they're missing out. Those who've traveled here on purpose, though, appear to be having a very good time.
James Andre reporting outside the Grand Palais. Let me ask you, we're with Leo McGuinn from our sports desk. And Leo, of course, we're having a bit of Olympics envy just because we could not cover the surfing competition.
I'm very jealous of those who get to compete and those who get to cover the surfing over 10,000 miles away, over in Tehupo in Tahiti. It's not a bad job for them, is it? But yeah, incredible.
And the local one?
The local boy came good. It really is such a great story. Coley Vast winning men's surfing gold for France, his home waves, you could say. And he put in an incredible performance to beat the Australian surfer in the final. And we've talked about the surfing so much, haven't we, that it's a little bit not hidden, but it takes place in the middle of the night. It's so far from here. But this is such a good story, and it kind of puts it back on the front pages again. It puts it into the public consciousness. This guy, Coley Vast, will be talked about for a long time. And of course, it is part of France. So for him to come through and win on his home waves is such a good story. And France did win a bronze medal in the women's as well, their first ever medal in women's surfing. So it was an incredible night for France and for Coley Vast and for Craig Capitas, who I believe stayed up late to watch it.
I did. This is a real boon to France, particularly the people around Biarritz and South, where surfing in France really took off, before it even took off in the dom-toms. This is a big day for the French surfing industry, really is.
Now, there is a sport, we're trying to find out what's the sport that no one's ever seen before and catches their eye. People who aren't used to, who don't watch all the different various sports. Is climbing the new curling, is my question.
We talked about this before. I think climbing is going to attract a lot of interest. I don't know, over the last 5 years, I've had a lot of friends who have stopped going out every weekend, and they've started climbing. It seems as soon as you hit 30 years old, you start maybe getting a coffee every weekend, wearing a beanie, and going climbing on Thursday nights. And of course, the women's combined climbing started today. I think it will attract a lot of interest. As I say, there's one name as well, Janja Garnbret from Slovenia. She virtually unbeaten in the world circuit. She's drawing a lot of eyes. She won in Tokyo in 2020, and she casually topped her heats and semi-final. It looks like she'll be almost impossible to beat in the women's combined climbing. There's also the speed climbing as well, which is quite a feet to watch.
It's incredible to watch. They go up the wall in 4 seconds, and the men. There's a sport. It looked like it was a new sport because it's got a new name. It used to be called synchronized swimming, artistic swimming, taking place across from the athletics at the brand new aquatic center in the northern suburb of Saint-Denis. Craig Capitas, artistic swimming. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, that was rebranded after the 2016 games, and everyone said, "Yeah, okay." Except the Russians, can't get away from the Russians. The Russians absolutely flipped out when the name was changed. And their deputy prime minister, Vitaly Mutko, ordered all Russian athletes and everyone in Russia not to use the phrase artistic swimming. And what he said, we are keeping the name synchronized swimming because it is our right. And
so would you call the current president of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, a former synchronized swimmer or a former artistic swimmer?
Well, if you're in Russia, you're going to be calling her a synchronized swimmer. If you're not familiar with this, it harkens back to Carmen Miranda in her banana hat and Esther Williams in the movie $1 Million Mermaid. But if you were absent that day or a young person, think of it this way. Remember the opening ceremony with Lady Gaga singing on the side of the river? Think of 15 Lady Gagas diving into the Seine and doing that performance in the water.
Yeah, you were telling us on Monday how wrestling can lead to professional wrestling. Artistic swimming can lead to Hollywood if water musicals come back in fashion.
Well, yeah. Well, what they used to do is it was big. It was vaudeville. It started in vaudeville. They would build giant transparent swimming pools on the stage.
And people would pay money to come watch that.
And you know why? Because you could see the curves of the women. If you go back and you read the old accounts, the reviews of swimming, movie swimming, synchronized swimming, artistic swimming, whatever you want to call it, this was the draw. This was the vaudeville draw. This was the draw for Hollywood movies directed by Busby Berkeley. And by the way, the last time we've actually saw this big time was on the U.S. hit TV show, which I know you watched as a kid, called The Brady Bunch, when they did this. And it was also Miss Piggy put on a bikini in the movie The Great Muppet Caper and participated in synchronized swimming,
which was then called synchronized swimming. Leo McQuinn, sports that are more familiar to our audiences include men's basketball. Serbia had quite the scare in their quarterfinal.
They did, but they got through. They got it done in overtime, and they're through into the semi-finals. And we'll see France take on Canada. It's just started a few minutes ago, actually, and it's fair to say France certainly aren't favourites for that one. Canada really good in the group stages. They topped their group. Of course, they've got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who was in the MVP running. Look, France have lots of stars as well. Wemby, notably, Rudy Gobert as well. Evan Fournier, I know he's one of your favourites. He'll have to come off the bench tonight. But Canada,
and he's criticised the coach, and that has. It'll be interesting to see whether or not Vincent Collet gives him any time.
Yeah, and there's something a little bit off with the French team. They haven't gelled so far. They were beaten very comfortably by Germany in their last pool game, whereas Canada rather breezed through their pool. So a mountain to climb for Les Bleus.
I know that later you'll be covering for us USA versus Brazil in the men's basketball. What else is on the agenda?
The big one tonight is the 200 metre, the women's 200 metre final. A few days ago, St. Lucia never had a medal at the Olympics. They've got a chance for 2 now, maybe 2 golds, because 100 metre champion Julian Alfred is running in that 200 metre final. She's not the favourite. It'll be Gabby Thomas of the US. One of her main competitors, Sharika Jackson, won't contend. She pulled out of both the 100 metre and 200 metre. But the 200 metre is a lot more unpredictable over the years, if you look at the results, than the 100 metre. You also have Dina Asher-Smith of Great Britain. She's been there, she's done it, so she'll be a threat as well. And there's no Elaine Thompson-Herath. She's missing the games, of course. She won the 200 metres 3 years ago in Tokyo. So Gabby Thomas favourite, but look out for Julian Alfred. Maybe double gold for St. Lucia. That'd be quite a story.
Go St. Lucia.
Go St. Lucia.
Go St. Lucia, yeah, one of those smaller Caribbean nations. Leo McGuinn, many thanks. We'll be following it all with you in some 90 minutes' time. I want to thank Craig Capitas. Thank you for being with us here for this edition of Destination Paris.